What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to talk about what I think are the worst picks in every round of 2021 fantasy football. Now, I just want to make it clear I'm going to be rattling off about like 20 to 30 names. There's bound to be a guy on this list that you like and that you don't agree with. And I completely get it, man. To each his own. Everyone's got their own opinions. Just know I have to take my stand somewhere. I have to take my stand somewhere. I refuse to be the guys on ESPN or out there on the big networks or Sirius XM radio where it's just every player is great. Every player is a value at ADP. I'm going to come out here and tell you guys the guys that I am not drafting. That's just how this is going to be. I'm going to give you guys full transparency, full honesty. Now, with that being said, we're cranking out daily videos from now all the way through week one and then all the way. I don't know if we're going to do daily in season, but all the way, we're going to be providing great content from now through the fantasy playoffs, year round, whatever you want to call it. So make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like before we get into this one. Let's go.
Thirsty, thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm critical. My nitty bag.
All right, so today we're going to be hopping in to Fantasy Pros, looking at their full PPR ADP. It takes into account ESPN, RT Sports, which is like a high stakes leagues website. We have Sleeper, FFC, just takes an average of all that. So it pretty much gives us a good feel of, home leagues and just any league in general. I can't, fine tune every single setting so that it fits your home league or your league that you're playing in. But it is like a good generalization of what everybody's got going on in their league, which then brings us to the worst picks of the first round, which is where this is the round where everybody has their guys. All these guys are first round picks for a reason. They are very skilled football players. They all have a fine case for being in round one. I just have a couple of guys that I'm not as high as everybody else on. And the whole reason for this is that you guys know with these running backs, I'm chasing this legendary running back upside because we know running backs get hurt at a very high rate. They bust at a high rate, especially in the first round. And we want to target the guys that have the upside to pay off the downside. Guys that can be the next Christian McCaffrey in 2018 and 2019, Alvin Kamara last year, Todd Gurley in 2017. They all returned 20% win rate. This legendary win rate stuff is all, researched by Pat Kerrane. He is amazing. He had a great article on NBC Sports Edge. I strongly suggest you guys check it out. But these 20% win rate seasons are the ones that we need to be chasing. They are the ones that unless if you hit that outcome, a running back versus a wide receiver isn't any different. Devontae Adams or guys like Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs matched Derrick Henry's output, but Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara were head and shoulders above the rest. Besides Devontae Adams, but Devontae Adams just had an outlier season. But your league's taco could draft Alvin Kamara last year, and he gets that 6 touchdown game in the last week of the season. Alvin Kamara is a stud all season, and he wins your league just because he owns that player. That's what we want to strive for. And these guys I'm fading in round one are simply guys that I don't think have that in their range of outcomes. If you want to draft them because you think they are locked in for a bunch of projected opportunity, they have the floor that you like, that is completely fine. But the way that I draft, I don't believe that running backs in general have a floor. All these guys get hurt. All of them put on a lot of miles. It is a violent position where they are ramming. They are legitimate gladiators ramming into other gladiators at all times, doing it 300 times over a span of 16 games. So it is tough for me to justify making these picks unless if they have the upside to outscore other positions. And that's my case for why the first guy I'm fading is going to be Derrick Henry. This is PPR, full PPR. I cannot draft Derrick Henry at the 104. I cannot do it. Last year, he hit the nuts. He had the best case scenario where Christian McCaffrey goes down, Saquon Barkley goes down, a bunch of other running backs like Mixon, Eckler, Nick Chubb, all those guys go down. He hits 2,000 rushing yards for just the 8th time ever. One of the craziest rushing seasons of all time. But he only caught like 15 to 18 catches. He is out there as the RB3 in points per game. That was his absolute ceiling, RB3 in points per game. He will never outdo that. There is no scenario where he goes out there and he catches 50 balls, puts up 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. There is no scenario where that happens. So to draft him at literally his ceiling, where the only thing that he can do is go down from there. And people want to say, oh, but he can just finish as like the RB8, RB9, RB7. If you were drafting a guy at the 104 at running back, he needs to finish in that upper echelon. If he's giving you low-end RB1 numbers like Ezekiel Elliott was last year, if you had Ezekiel Elliott on your team, you know that he was burning you last year for the price that you got him. And that's my take with Ezekiel Elliott as well. He's another one of these guys that I don't think has legendary upside in his range of outcomes. Only twice has he returned a better than 8.3% win rate. Remember, we're aiming for 20% or better. Only twice has he ever hit an 8.3% win rate, and his highest win rate ever was 12% as a rookie. We are now going into year 5, and I have legitimate concerns of all these guys like Derrick Henry. If you want to draft him because he is a very talented football player, go ahead. Derrick Henry is a very talented football player. Ezekiel Elliott, I think things are starting to catch up with him. In 2019, if you want to throw away 2020, sure, I completely get it. Dak got hurt. The whole offense was a dumpster fire. But in 2019, he showed signs that he wasn't this like all-pro skilled runner anymore. He was out there underperforming in a stat I really like, yards created over expectation per attempt. He was in the bottom like 20% of that list. He looked very bad. Or I wouldn't say very bad. He was inefficient. He's not this great efficiency player where he is very talented. Like Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb were the top 2 in that stat. They are very talented running backs. So with Ezekiel Elliott, you're betting on his situation and you're betting on his workload, when I would rather bet on the talent and then worry about situation later, or like just as like a secondary option. So because of that, in a full PPR, I will take Devontae Adams. I will take Travis Kelce. I will take a lot of guys. Ezekiel Elliott for me is a late first. It's not. Remember, these guys that I'm fading, it's not like I have them like in the back end of the second round. On my actual rankings, I have Derrick Henry not in Ezekiel Elliott not in the top 5. I have them more towards here. I think that's where they belong, especially in full PPR leagues. Then my last fade is Nick Chubb here. In a full PPR, guys, I get it. Nick Chubb is a very good running back. He is arguably the best pure rusher in the NFL, and I think that if you swapped him out with Dalvin Cook, he would genuinely be my 102. He is that good at playing football. I don't deny that at all. I can't make it any clearer. Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry are not bad at football. They are very good football players. They are all pro caliber running backs. But in terms of fantasy football, the problem is with Derrick Henry or with Nick Chubb is that he doesn't catch passes. He has never caught a lot of passes. And he only gets there on efficiency when you have Kareem Hunt in that backfield. If it was literally anybody else, if it was, just a normal back, if it was a Sony Michel, if it was an Alexander Madison, if it was Tony Pollard, anything like that, Nick Chubb would be amazing for fantasy football. But because Kareem Hunt is in that backfield, I can't take him at the 110. You're pricing yourself out of any upside. You need to hope that Kareem Hunt gets an injury. And in the first round, I don't want to be an injury away from my draft pick paying off big. That's all I have to say about that. In Nick Chubb's spot, I would prefer Aaron Jones, Saquon, obviously, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor. I would even prefer Austin Eckler, the guy who's below there. I prefer a lot of guys to Nick Chubb. Now, in round 2, you guys are going to hate me for this as well. And again, I know this is a do not draft list. You guys are not going to be happy about a lot of these guys, especially in the early rounds, because a lot of you guys love these players. But I can't get there on Najee Harris. Not at the 203, man. I have Najee Harris as like a late second. I have him as a late second. I think he should be right where Joe Mixon is. They are both guys where you are drafting them because they are projected for a lot of opportunity behind shoddy O-lines. It is the same exact proposition. Now, I will say, if you think that Najee Harris is a stud prospect and you think he is a Saquon Barkley level prospect, go ahead and draft him. But I don't. I think he's a Josh Jacobs. Like I said it in the video I made the other day. I think that he is in the range of Josh Jacobs, Melvin Gordon, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's not some world-beating prospect. He came out at 23 years old. He didn't run a 40 time because he's slow. I get the appeal, but he's going to be in an offense where he's not going to be able to get 100-plus targets, where he could pay off very big. They have Claypool, they have Juju, they have Deontay Johnson. He's not going to get an insane amount of targets. This is a bad offensive line, and he had a great offensive line at Alabama. Those guys churn out blue-chip offensive linemen, and he's not a guy that is built for that kind of environment. Like a Saquon Barkley could run behind the bad offensive line because he can go -1, -2, and then his 4.4 speed, he can break one for 80 yards and score a touchdown. Najee Harris doesn't do that. He doesn't break one off for 50 yards and score a touchdown. That's Travis Etienne stuff. That's not Najee Harris. He's going to churn it out, and he's kind of like in that, he is in that, I would almost say like a David Montgomery type role or mold where he is going to churn things out. He's much better in the passing game than that, but he's not going to get a bunch of targets. He's going to get plenty, 60 to 70, but he's not going to get that legendary upside target range where you have guys like McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Gurley. All those guys saw 85 plus targets. And I want to make it clear, guys. A lot of these guys talking about these players, putting their neck out, or even if they're talking up players, they're not even backing it up. They don't actually like these guys. They don't actually draft them. They just want to appeal to everybody on the YouTube space. I truly back up and put my money where my mouth is. I only own on Underdog Fantasy. I have 300 plus leagues drafted on there. I only own Najee Harris in 1% of leagues, Nick Chubb in 2%, Zeke in 3.6%, and Henry in 2%. I'm essentially shorting these guys' stocks. And feel free to disagree with me, but instead of going down below and shouting in the comments, go put your money where your mouth is. Go hop on Underdog Fantasy. Go draft these players. Get exposure to these players. You hop on there. Use my promo code RON when you deposit $10 or more. You get a $25 bonus. You can go on there, run up 7 $5 drafts. You can go draft these guys. They're all available in the first and second round. You can go get them in your leagues, and you can have stake in those players. Because it's one thing to shout in my comments about, oh, you're too low on this guy or that guy. It's another thing to be on the clock and actually take these players that you believe in. So I'm telling you guys, if you want to get some practice for your fantasy football leagues and you want to put your money where your mouth is when it comes to these running backs, hop on Underdog Fantasy. Use my promo code RON when you deposit $10 or more for a $25 bonus. And you can actually get some nice practice for your upcoming fantasy football drafts, because you're going to go out there, and the worst thing you can do is, you practice on these mock drafts on like ESPN where like there's 12-year-olds and people time out by like the 5th round. And there's auto picking defenses by like the 8th round. If you hop on Underdog Fantasy where there's actual money on the line, people playing to win those leagues, you can draft against sharp people, and that'll just get you ready to go for a $10 price tag for your actual league. Now, Underdog Fantasy is a best ball platform. You can draft these teams. You don't have to worry about them until the end of the year, Christmas time, and hopefully you win a couple of them and you get some extra money when December comes around. Now, when we get into the round 3 scenario, we are going to talk about one guy in particular, and that's David Montgomery. I'm into David Montgomery. If you even want to take him like in the 4th round or something, but when we say David Montgomery is here and he is over Allen Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Carson, even DeAndre Swift, I can't get there. I can't do David Montgomery over James Robinson. And I get that he was sick last year down stretch, and I get that Tariq Cohen is hurt for the beginning of the season or whatever. But David Montgomery, like, he had the nuts last year where he had a stretch of like 7 or 8 games against the easiest rush defenses possible, and he is okay. I think he's a fine mid-range RB2, but we want to shoot for more than that because we know that RB2s can be replaced off waivers. If David Montgomery was to go down, Damian Williams would be a perfect RB2 that you could put in at RB2, stream, and you could match a David Montgomery's production. I don't think that David Montgomery has, I don't think that David Montgomery is an elite runner. I think Justin Fields is going to take some of that away from him. And again, it's not that I don't believe in David Montgomery, and I'm not even actively fading him at this point, but David Montgomery at pick 30 is just too rich for me. That's all I have to say. That's too high. I'm gonna guess that guys in your home league, they might have, like, David Montgomery went crazy last year, and they might be drafting him a little bit higher. So I would just say pass on him. Grab one of these wide receivers, and if you want a running back in this range, I would go Chris Carson or DeAndre Swift personally. And in round 4, this is where we get like full-on dead zone running back territories in full effect. And in PPR, across the board, wide receivers are scoring more than running backs in PPR at the spot where you're picking them. And last year, you were getting guys in this range from rounds 4 through 6. You're getting Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, Mark Ingram. It was ugly. And you were passing on guys like Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen. A lot of these very talented wide receivers were getting passed on in this exact range for locked-in volume at running back. And I think it's one of the worst mistakes you can make in all of fantasy football. And I think where this starts on this list is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has been very inefficient the last 2 years. Last year, he had a 3.9 yards per carry. Now they take away Rodney Hudson, one of the best offensive linemen in the league. They have a worse offensive line, and he also has no upside to pass catching. They just brought in Kenyon Drake, where Josh Jacobs had only caught 33 passes last year. He has no ceiling for RB1 upside, and you're passing on elite wide receivers in this range. You're passing on Woods, passing on Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, cornerstone wide receivers on your team for RB2 production that you can replicate off waivers. Remember, there's going to be times where there's going to be free square running backs off waivers is what they call it, where the starter is going to go down and there's going to be a mass rush to waivers, like a Gus Edwards. If you had just picked up Gus Edwards off waivers, or you had him on your bench, you can now replicate somebody else's Josh Jacobs. They're going to put up very similar weekly numbers. And on a platform like Underdog, Josh Jacobs goes in like the pick 50 to 60 range. 37 is far too rich. That's home league territory is pick 37. That's where you need to be fading him. And the second guy that fits that mold is Myles Gaskin. We already saw in preseason They weren't giving him the majority of the reps. I know that in that next preseason game, he looked better, but I get major Thomas Rawls, Alex Collins, CJ Anderson type vibes. He is this fragile dead zone running back where he is locked into a role simply because there's no one else around him and he looks good in projections. But that only holds up for the first week. And I know that last year he played well, but we only have a 7-game sample of what he could do last year. And he was a 7th rounder in the NFL draft. We know these teams hold no allegiance to these running backs that are picked late. We just saw the Jaguars take Travis Etienne in the first round in the NFL draft after James Robinson ran for 1,000 yards as an undrafted free agent. They literally do not care in the NFL with the running back position. And I think Myles Gaskin is somebody that is at risk of, if he fumbles, if he has a down game, Salvon Ahmed, Malcolm Brown, okay, go in, get your reps. Or they sign somebody off free agency if he's not getting it done. It's very simple to see a world where a guy like that does not pay off. And in the 6th round or in the 5th round here, it's very similar with a guy like Mike Davis. I cannot imagine taking a guy like Mike Davis over DJ Moore, over Deontay Johnson, over even like a TJ Hawkinson or a Brandon Ayuk. These are all guys that I would take over Mike Davis any day of the week. Mike Davis is extremely fragile. His ADP is actually going to be moving down from this very soon because they grab Wayne Gallman. If you draft a running back who is a Wayne Gallman ad away from cratering their value, you are making a bad selection. It's very fragile. You don't want to be doing that. And he is the dead zone running back poster child, where he is only there because of perceived opportunity. There's no one else there behind him. And I'm not into it. I'm not drafting a guy based on his surrounding factors. He's a 28-year-old career backup. Why are you paying a premium for Mike Davis? It is insane. So now he had his year last year. You are now paying a premium for what he did last year. You are now buying high on Mike Davis when you can simply let it go and you can get this year's Mike Davis off waivers and grab a wide receiver that will give you a real edge in PPR leagues in the same exact range. And the guy that I'm a little bit lower on is Adam Thielen. He has 2 concerns for me. I think his touchdown luck was crazy last year. He had 14. He's probably going to come back down to like the 6 to 8 range. And I think Jefferson takes a lot more volume than we think of, because I just see Justin Jefferson. There's a world out there where Justin Jefferson commands a 30% target share as a top 3 points per game wide receiver, and the Vikings don't throw the ball enough to support Adam Thielen as a top 24 wide receiver. That is my biggest fear with him. And in this range, I'd rather have Deontay Johnson. I'd rather have DJ Moore. I'd rather have Brandon Ayuk. And I'd rather even have guys, once we go to like the round 6 range, I would even rather have guys like T. Higgins, Odell Beckham, Chase Claypool, Jamar Chase, all over Adam Thielen. And in this round 6 range, the guys that I'm not a big fan of, again, we're going to talk about another running back. When we have guys like T. Higgins, Odell Beckham, and Chase Claypool, all wide receivers I'm very high on, even a Jamar Chase, I can't take Damian Harris in this range. He's not somebody where, like, where is Damian Harris? Okay, 73. And Damian Harris, the problem is that you're taking him over very good wide receivers in this range that will be available in your home league. And I can't get behind it because he doesn't catch passes. He has 5 career catches. And now we have James White in here with Mac Jones. They're going to get that James White role going with Bill Belichick. This has always been a committee backfield with Bill Belichick as the quarterback. I think it's foolish to spend a round 6 pick, round 7 pick on Damian Harris when we know that they don't usually just grind out an RB1 from like that is like projected as the RB1. We've seen guys like LeGarrette Blount come up big. We've seen guys like James White come up big late. I'd rather take the swings late. I think Ramondre Stevenson will be involved on the goal line in between the tackles, and I think James White will take away a lot of receiving work. I think that Damian Harris isn't going to be the kind of workhorse that a lot of us are expecting. And another one, I don't really have a huge gripe against Juju. I actually have him in a good amount of leagues, but at pick 66, it's kind of ridiculous. We're talking about in round 6 over Chase Claypool. I'm not doing that. I'm not taking him over Odell Beckham, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I don't think I'm even taking him over Kenny Golladay. Again, I don't mind him, but he just is like a low floor slot wide receiver. Kind of feels like a Tyler Boyd with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm just not there in the 6th round. And a wide receiver that I'm not going to be taking a lot of this year is going to be Michael Thomas. In this range, we still have very good players on the board. We are still talking about guys like Devonta Smith, Robbie Anderson, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, guys that can start for your team and be very good, that have upside to wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 outcomes. I can't get behind taking Michael Thomas. Now, if you have an IR spot, maybe. But still, burning a round 7 pick on fire to just have him come back later on in the season is tough for me to do personally. I'm personally of the mindset where I want to draft as many players to help me out now. And on top of that, we saw Michael Thomas came back from injury last year a few times. He didn't look that great. We had a guy like Kenny Golladay come back from injury. He didn't look that great. Drafting guys that are already hurt isn't something I'm very interested in. You know, he just recently got injured. He delayed his surgery to June when he had an injury last year. He's in bad standing with the team. He's supposed to be back by week 8, but I've heard doctors, Pro Football Doc on Twitter, he was saying that he might not be there until the back half of the season, and he might not even be 100% until a little bit after that. So it's a big gamble to take Michael Thomas here. And another one would be Melvin Gordon. I don't know how you take Melvin Gordon with guys like Trey Sermon still available, Ronald Jones still available. I'm not into Melvin Gordon in this range at all. In round 7, you're taking him, and the team has shown that they are not committed to him at all. Javonte Williams, they traded up for Javonte Williams at the 35th overall pick. They leapfrogged Miami, and we saw in preseason, Javonte Williams getting a lot of the first team reps. They even sat out Javonte Williams in that last game to showcase Melvin Gordon a little bit, whether that means that Melvin Gordon is the second option, if Melvin Gordon is the guy that they want to trade somewhere. I don't see a world where Melvin Gordon pays off outside of the first few weeks, where he'll probably be the lead back for a couple weeks. But I think that there is a chance that Javonte Williams takes over this entire backfield and Melvin Gordon becomes almost droppable, like a Mark Ingram last year. And another guy that I'm uncertain about his workload is Michael Carter in the 8th round. I wasn't high on him coming out. I have him in a couple places in redraft because I thought, maybe he'll get the volume. But that's always a tough thing to say, to just, chase volume and not talent. He's not a great prospect. He's a senior. He has like a Giovanni Bernard type build where he's like a receiving back with a little bit of a plus rushing game. He's nothing crazy. He wasn't getting the majority of the snaps in preseason. Tevin Coleman was like a healthy scratch a lot of the time. So Tevin Coleman is the presumed number 1 guy. And then him and Ty Johnson were splitting snaps in the preseason. And Ty Johnson was getting a little bit more of those carries. So I think that this is going to be a committee. I don't think that Michael Carter is talented enough for me to want to bet on him to emerge out of the committee. I'm down to bet on guys in committees that I believe are talented players. Michael Carter isn't there for me. And in round 9, we have guys where now I think that the value starts to shift towards running back and some of these wide receiver flyers, but I think Michael Pittman's a bad flyer to take. I think that, one, he wasn't a crazy prospect. He wasn't that good of a prospect. He came out as a senior. He was outplayed by 4th rounder Amon-Ra St. Brown at times at USC. He was outplayed by absolute no-names that were at USC, like Deontay Burnett at times. People love Michael Pittman, and it's another one of these things where people are very locked in on the surrounding factors. I am very much team talent over opportunity because I think that talent always remains constant. Opportunity is fragile. Like we saw, players can just get brought in. Player can just get brought in from the streets and just absolutely throw things into flux. Like Darrell Henderson. Sony Michel comes in. All of a sudden, Darrell Henderson's workload is in question. Michael Pittman, because, T.Y. Hilton is hurt and it seems like he has that wide receiver room all to himself, that doesn't mean that he's going to be this productive wide receiver for fantasy football. He face planted in year 1. We know these guys that don't do well in year 1, they usually don't do well for the rest of their careers. And I don't see how you go Michael Pittman in this range when you have Zach Moss, James Conner, very good running backs in this range. Corey Davis, Jarvis Landry are great. But the one that I think is the most egregious is Will Fuller at the 107. You cannot take Michael Pittman over Will Fuller. I know that Will Fuller is going to be suspended for the first week, but that's not really a huge deal. And Will Fuller is going to be like Will Fuller. We've seen him be great before. He was like the wide receiver 7 in points per game last year. Taking Michael Pittman over him almost makes no sense. And in round 10, the first thing I want to make it clear is that once you get into round 10, please do not be the first guy in your room to take defense or kicker. My biggest thing is I'm waiting until the last 2 rounds to take both, and I'll take a kicker. If there's truly nothing on the board, I'll take a kicker a little bit early because kickers are a little bit more consistent, where if you want to lock in like the 3rd to last round in your league or like the 4th to last round in your draft, if you can lock in Younghoe Koo, Justin Tucker, or Harrison Butker, I'm fine with that, so you don't have to spend fab on kickers and rotate them off the bench. But defenses are so non-sticky year to year that I don't think it's a great idea to draft them early. Please do not take like the Pittsburgh Steelers or any of these defenses early. It's never a good idea. You can just stream them off waivers. And the other one that I can't get behind is Jamal Williams. I think that Michael Gallup is a sick pick here. I can't take Jamal Williams over him. But with guys like, I can't take Jamal Williams with guys like Sony Michel is on the board. Nyheim Hines is on the board. You have Tony Pollard all on the board. Jamal Williams, I don't see the upside as like a 0 RB target. The whole idea of 0 RB is that you take talented running backs that can eventually emerge. Jamal Williams isn't a talented running back. He's in a committee, and a lot of the people that are fading DeAndre Swift because of the situation and think the offense is bad, then you should also be fading Jamal Williams, because I just don't see the upside with Jamal. Like, what does it look like? I don't know. I'm not sure what it looks like if DeAndre Swift goes down, and I don't think that he has that big of a role while DeAndre Swift is there. I think that he probably has a similar role to what he had in Green Bay, like a 30% opportunity share. And in round 11, pick 121 to pick 132. I can't get behind Ruggs here. Again, another one of these guys that face planted in year one. We have a lot of historical data that we've been looking at since Dynasty season. I talk about this more in other videos, but Henry Ruggs is one of the guys that fits into that face planter status. And we want to fade those guys, especially when rookie wide receivers are available in the same range. We know that wide receivers hit at a higher rate. Rookie wide receivers hit at a higher rate than face planting wide receivers. So instead of going for those like budget year two breakouts, we need to be targeting the rookie wide receivers. We need to be targeting next year's or this year's Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson, all of those kind of guys. And I think that it's clear that instead of Henry Ruggs, you should actually be drafting Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, or Terrace Marshall. And in round 12, this is the range where I'm looking at quarterbacks, but I don't understand taking Baker Mayfield or Matt Ryan over Justin Fields or Trey Lance in a one quarterback league. We want to swing for maximum upside. There's no reason to lock in like a high floor with Baker or Matt Ryan. Just lock in a high floor a little bit later on with like a Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. You can even lock one in with, a Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you can pair him with a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, and you can kind of double up on safety and really high upside. And in round 13, the last spot that we're going to even talk about, because after this, it gets ugly. Everybody's a bad pick at this point. But the first guy I want to talk about is Russell Gage. And I don't get the fascination about Russell Gage. A lot of people are very excited about Gage, but he is this guy who is just a slot wide receiver that is just going to get PPR points as just a boring slot wide receiver who'll give you like maybe 8-9 points a week. You can replicate that production off waivers very easily. So when we're in these late rounds, I'm drafting those rookie wide receivers. I'm getting those handcuffs. I'm swinging for maximum upside. Russell Gage does not have an outcome where he hits huge for you. You want to be taking home run swings in these late rounds. Just get as many lottery tickets as on your bench as possible. I'm grabbing Rondale Moore or Terrace Marshall in this range. And then the other one is Hunter Henry. I think he's probably getting drafted off name value. There's not really a role there in New England to begin with. And we're looking at a guy who's also injured. He's apparently supposed to miss the first couple weeks. So I think that there's just better guys, like an Evan Ingram in this range at tight end than Hunter Henry. And that's going to do it for us today. Now, all these guys I listed on here are lower on my ranks. I have them in spots so you don't end up with them at ADP. But if they do fall to you, they fall to you, and you can snag them at value. Like I ended up with Michael Carter in a draft, but I got him instead of at pick like 85, I got him at pick like 116. So you can still end up with them on the rankings, but the rankings are optimized in a way where you miss out on those dead zone running backs. You can kind of dominate your home league against your buddies, and it's all just for $5. My entire draft guide is my top 250 in one quarterback leagues and Superflex leagues, has all my tiers, and it even gives you access on Discord to exclusive spots where you can talk to me about fantasy advice, trade advice, waiver wires, start, sit, all of that good stuff and more for literally $5 on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. It's in the description. It'll be in the comments, all of that good stuff and more. Now, let me know if there's any of these guys on this list that you guys disagree with. I know you guys are going to disagree with some of them. Please go downstairs, or if you go into the comments, make sure you just give me a sound argument. You don't got to come at me and, me being in my mom's basement and shit. You don't got to get personal, man. You can just speak your piece. And I completely understand. A lot of the guys I'm fading are first and second round picks. They're first and second round picks for a reason. There is a bull case there. There is a reason to like them. And I can see your side of the argument. I just can't get there at cost is all it comes down to. There has to eventually be players that you don't like. I can't like everybody, or else I'll just be, one of those corny guys that, like I don't want to be that guy. I want to be more, fantasy player than I am just like content creator. I could just love everybody, But anyways, that's where we're at. I'm going to be doing live streams every single day, doing mock drafts on Underdog. So make sure you go on Underdog, use my promo code RON when you deposit $10 or more for a $25 bonus. Hop on there, draft with us. We're going to be drafting all the way through kickoff on Thursday. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you check out those live streams. You turn on the notification bell, and you can hop in with us, have some fun. And that's going to do it for today, man. I'm about to actually go live in a second. So I'm going to end this video now so I can get, hang out with you guys for a little bit. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Thirsty, trying to choose.